Welcome back to Hilaal Live. Now today, Israeli jets struck the Gaza Strip after its forces withdrew from Jenin in the occupied West Bank, ending Israel's largest assault in the region in nearly 2 decades. Now this is not the first time the Israeli army have committed these acts, raising once again questions of the brutality of these attacks. Joining us now is Aziz Younis. He's an Al Jazeera journalist who was also a correspondent in Palestine. Aziz, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and Jazakallah so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Aziz, we see, of course, what is happening in Jenin. But why Jenin specifically? What is it that makes the Israeli army say, okay, today we're just going to go to Jenin? Talk to us about that, and of course, what significance holds within Jenin.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you again for having me. If you know about Palestine specifically, Jenin present one of the biggest and the largest strong resistance towards the Israeli occupation. That's why, even though this raid was the largest since 2002, yet Jenin and the refugee camp in Jenin always holds that kind of status that if the Israeli occupation try to enter the camp, they will face like a very heavy resistance. And many of the operations that happens in the occupied West Bank, the resistance themselves, they go and they disappear in the camp. That area is it's a densely packed area which houses some 14,000 displaced Palestinians in less than half a square kilometer. So it become a very difficult place for the occupation forces, the Israeli occupation forces, to extract or get any kind of what they call it wanted Palestinian resistance.
Aziz, yesterday the UN had reported that water and electricity...
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now, Aziz? Aziz?
Still, sorry. Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, no problem. Now, I was asking, yesterday the United Nations had said water and electricity had been cut off. I'm just trying to ask myself, I mean, is this the extent to which the Israeli army is going to try and really damage a historical town within Palestine?
I mean, it's. I know it might sound like a simple question, but remember, it's an occupation. It's 74 years of ongoing occupation towards on the livelihood of Palestinians. So what's happening now? It's not new for Palestinians, except this is on a larger scales. Israel only increasing the scale of its incursions into Palestinian territories in the face of Palestinian resistance and Palestinian people. As you watched and everyone watched, the forces, the Israeli occupation forces, has launched one of the biggest attacks on the occupied West Bank now, in my city, Jenin, killing at least 11 Palestinians in the camp and wounded over like hundreds more. They attacked medical staff, journalists, media personnel, and of course terrorizing kids and other people. Over 4,000 displaced, Palestinian families. They had to leave their house for the massive attack from the Israeli occupation when they raided the area. So it's not new for Palestinians. The situation has been for long, but it takes like different forms and different ways and different times, of course.
You spoke about, obviously, the attack on media, the attack on medical staff. Now, this has drawn condemnation, surprisingly so, from a member of the UK Parliament. But condemnation's not going to be enough. There needs to be strong action. But, I mean, you being, your family being from Jenin, being from Palestine, one would understand that you would want more from the international community except condemnation. I mean, do you still foresee there a time where there could be strong action taken against Israel for what they're doing right now?
I would say more than I hope so, because I know that what happened in South Africa was also not just part of the resistance on the ground, but mainly from the international, interaction with the situation here in South Africa. So I really hope that what's going to happen, that if we put more pressure into the international community, this can force the Israelis' hands into a different situation. But of course, as Palestinian, we don't just rely solely on the international community. As much as we do want them to interact, usually they say, there's an Arabic proverb that says, only your hand will be able to scratch you back as you want. So we know that our situation will only be changed by our hands, but also we do want the international community to have more actions towards boycotting, divestment, and the boycott and divestment and sanctions against Israel in all forms and all ways.
Aziz, then immediately after what happened in Jenin, they went back to Gaza. It's an attack that has happened for so many years. It's not something new, as you mentioned. But again, the scale at which they're doing it at Gaza, I mean, if that's not enough to convince the international community, like you said, of course, what happened in South Africa during apartheid, then nothing else is going to happen.
It's sadly, but it's funny enough that whenever anything happened in Palestine, Gaza is the one to blame. Of course, they're gonna blame the resistance in Gaza, and they specify like certain groups that they would love to, it's because the rockets and all of that. It's the sad poker game that they play, poker card that they play whenever they want. Of course, Gaza has a strong kind of military resistance fighters existing in that small density place. Yet whenever Gaza didn't do anything this time, only threatened that if anything happened, we're gonna put our hands to support our Palestinian brothers and sisters in the West Bank. Yet of course they attacked Gaza just to keep everyone aware that the Israeli occupation forces are here, and then whatever you think about, we will attack. So we understand that Gaza, but one of the best things that we respect, that Gaza is not alone, and they smart enough now. The joint operation room of the Palestinian resistance factions, which is an umbrella group comprising political parties in Gaza, on Monday called for all Palestinian to rally around Jenin, raising the possibility of a stronger Palestinian response to the strengthening Israeli operation. So alhamdulillah, thankfully, there is political awareness, there's more understanding. It's not just like we're attacking whenever we want. There's more awareness of the Palestinian situation, and we really hope that more people come together, the international community, to understand what's happening in Palestine, and to put their hands to stop this massacre that's happening on a daily basis and in Palestine.
Aziz, we'd like to say jazakallah to you so much for making the time for us. We really appreciate it.
Shukran so much for having me. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That's Aziz Younis, Al Jazeera journalist, just giving us an idea, of course, of the extent as to why Israel goes ahead and attacks Jenin. This is not the first time it's happened, and it's probably not the last time it will happen in those areas in Palestine. After the break, I'll have your latest in news. Do stay tuned.